Modern love. It feels less like a fairy tale and more like a buggy video game, right? You download the latest patch, Hinge, Bumble, whatever, and you hope for a seamless user experience. But instead you keep hitting these glitches, errors in the code of human connection that cause the whole system to lag, freeze, or just crash entirely. These aren't random bugs, they are predictable, repeatable patterns of behavior that are turning modern dating into a massive, unwilling beta test where we are all the QA team. And today, we're opening up the debugger's manual. We're going to isolate and analyze the most common glitches that are corrupting our connections, from the moment you match to the messy, bitter end. This is Every Relationship Glitch Explained. First, let's look at the glitches that happen right at the start, the ones that prevent a stable connection from ever forming. Glitch number 1, ghosting. You match, you chat, you meet, and then nothing. Complete radio silence. You, my friend, have just been hit with glitch number 1, ghosting. It's the abrupt, unexplained end to all communication, and it's shockingly common. Some studies show up to 84% of Gen Z and millennials have experienced it. The psychology behind it is a potent cocktail of extreme conflict avoidance, emotional immaturity, and a straight-up lack of empathy. It's especially common for people with an avoidant attachment style, who use distance as a defense mechanism when intimacy gets too real. But it's the feeling of being ghosted that's so uniquely brutal. One person on Reddit described being ghosted after a 6-month relationship and feeling like they were thrown out like trash. Because it's not just a breakup, it's an erasure. It implies you weren't even worthy of a 2-sentence text. Your brain, which is wired to find answers, is left in an endless, unresolvable loop of self-blame. But here's the surprising, counterintuitive fact about ghosting. It's not always a passive, cowardly retreat. Sometimes it's a calculated, strategic move. A ghoster knows that a direct rejection, saying "I'm not interested," closes the door for good. But by just disappearing, they leave things ambiguous. They keep you on the hook as a backup option they can revisit months later when they're bored or lonely. It's not just an absence of communication, it's a tool to maintain control. The best analogy? Ghosting is an emotional hit and run. They inflict the wound and then flee the scene, leaving you to deal with the wreckage alone. Glitch number 2, red flag, ignoring. Okay, so you've avoided the ghosters. You're on a few dates and things seem great, except for that little voice in your head, the one you're actively silencing, the one that's screaming about the fact that they're rude to the waiter or talk about their ex constantly or get weirdly jealous when you mention a friend. This is glitch number 2, red flag, ignoring. This is the psychological glitch, where you consciously or unconsciously dismiss clear warning signs. A staggering 72% of people who report being unhappy in their relationship admit they saw red flags in the dating phase. So why do we do it? 2 big reasons. First, cognitive dissonance. Your brain hates holding 2 conflicting thoughts, like, I'm a smart person who makes good choices and this person I chose is kind of a jerk. It's easier to rationalize their behavior, oh, they're just passionate, than to admit you made a bad call. One person on a forum shared a story of ignoring a partner's massive financial issues, even loaning him thousands of dollars, only for him to disappear. The financial red flag was a symptom of a much deeper irresponsibility she chose to overlook. But here's the truly surprising part. Ignoring red flags isn't just a bad psychological choice, it's a biological vulnerability. When you're falling for someone, your brain releases a cocktail of neurochemicals, dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, that creates a euphoric high. This love cocktail does more than feel good, it actively impairs your critical judgment. Your own biology works against your rational mind, making you chemically inclined to overlook any data, the red flags, that threatens the source of that high. The best metaphor? Ignoring red flags is like seeing the check engine light on your car's dashboard and just putting a piece of tape over it. The problem isn't gone, you've just chosen not to see it, and you're heading for a breakdown. Glitch number 3, the situationship loop. Maybe you've been seeing someone for months. You hang out, you hook up, you have inside joke. You're basically in a relationship in every way, except one. You have no idea what you are. Welcome to the maddening purgatory of glitch number 3, the situationship loop. A situationship is a romantic connection that exists in a state of intentional ambiguity, without labels or commitment, and it's a defining feature of modern dating. The 2024 poll found that half of all Americans aged 18 to 34 have been in one. The loop is a psychological trap created by what's called intermittent reinforcement. Unpredictable bursts of affection, a loving text after days of silence, are more addictive than consistent rewards. It keeps you hooked on the potential of the relationship, not the reality. The emotional toll is huge. People describe the mental exhaustion of constantly trying to interpret mixed signals, living with a low-grade anxiety, and being terrified to ask, "What are we?" for fear of scaring the other person away. The common assumption is that situationships are just casual, low-investment flings. But the surprising truth is much more painful. A 2024 study found that situationships often involve levels of affection, sex, and time spent together that are similar to committed relationships. The pain doesn't come from a lack of connection, it comes from the profound cognitive dissonance of experiencing a relationship while being denied the label and security that should come with it. You're not imagining the bond, which makes the refusal to define it feel like a direct rejection of your worth. My favorite analogy? A situationship is like being a permanent temp at the company of love. You do all the work of a full-time employee, but you get none of the benefits, security, or a title on the door. Part 2, in relationship bugs and corrupted files. Okay, so you've navigated the early stages and you're officially in a relationship. Congratulations, now the real bugs start to show up. Glitch number 4, instant soulmate syndrome, love bombing. This one often gets mistaken for a feature, not a bug. Your new partner is perfect. In fact, they're too perfect. They're calling you their soulmate on the second date. They're showering you with gifts. They're talking about your future together before you even know their middle name. This isn't a rom-com. This is glitch number 4, instant soulmate syndrome, better known as love bombing. Love bombing is a manipulative tactic, a deluge of affection and attention designed to gain control. It's a hallmark of narcissism, where the goal isn't to give love, but to secure a source of admiration, what psychologists call narcissistic supply. They build you up to feel special, and once you're hooked, the affection is suddenly withdrawn and replaced with criticism and control, leaving you desperate to get that initial high back. And the real-world consequences are devastating. It's a form of coercive control, a type of domestic abuse. In fact, research from the UK charity Refuge found that 40% of women experiencing homelessness cited domestic abuse, which includes tactics like love bombing, as a contributing factor. But here's the twist. The love bomber isn't some powerful predator. Psychologically, they're often deeply insecure. Their grand gestures aren't about adoring you. They're about propping up their own fragile ego. They need your validation to feel significant. The perfect metaphor, love bombing is the Trojan horse of relationships. It arrives as a beautiful, irresistible gift, but once you let it inside your walls, it unleashes an army of manipulation. Glitch number 5, repetition, compulsion. Have you ever looked back at your dating history and realized you've basically been dating the same person over and over again, just with a different face? The emotionally unavailable artist, the charming but unreliable salesperson, the critical academic. If this sounds familiar, you've encountered one of the deepest and most frustrating glitches in the human psyche, repetition compulsion. Coined by Sigmund Freud, this is the unconscious drive to recreate painful past dynamics, especially from childhood, in our current relationships. It's not a conscious desire for pain. It's your psyche's misguided attempt to gain mastery over an old wound. If you had a critical parent, you might unconsciously seek out critical partners because that dynamic, while painful, feels like home. One woman on a forum shared her painful realization that her boyfriend reminded her of her emotionally distant father. She knew it was a toxic loop, but her brain was hardwired to see all of these toxic environments as comfortable and familiar. This seems completely self-destructive, but the surprising and frankly tragic truth is that this glitch is fueled by a hidden form of optimism. The unconscious goal isn't to suffer again, it's to win this time. The inner child who felt rejected by a parent unconsciously chooses a partner who embodies that parent's qualities. The hidden hope is that this time they will finally be able to make this person love them, thereby fixing the original wound. It's a strategy that's almost always doomed to fail, but it's driven by a deep desire for resolution. It's like being a method actor who is typecast in a single tragic role. You keep auditioning for new plays, but you unconsciously steer every performance back to the same character in the same sad story. Glitch number 6, texting chemistry versus real chemistry. This next glitch is a product of our times. You meet someone on an app, the banter is incredible. You're texting for hours. You're funny, they're funny. You feel this deep electric connection. You've built them up in your head as your perfect match, and then you meet in person, and it's a dud. The conversation is stilted, the jokes don't land, the spark is gone. You've just experienced the massive disappointment of texting chemistry versus real chemistry. This happens because texting allows us to present a carefully curated, idealized version of ourselves. We have time to think of the perfect, witty reply. We can hide our social anxiety. We're not a person, we're a performance. As MIT social psychologist Sherry Turkle argues, we become better performers, but poorer, authentic communicators. The problem is that texting strips away the most crucial parts of communication: body language, tone of voice, eye contact, the nonverbal cues that make up over 90% of how we actually connect. Common sense says that great texting is a good sign, right? Well, the counterintuitive truth is that it can actually be the opposite. Intense, prolonged texting before a first date creates impossibly high expectations. As one Redditor put it, you create a fantasy of who you want the person to be, and when you are with them in person, they are not that. You build a connection with a digital avatar, not a real person. Plus, you can exhaust all the good first date topics before you even get there, leaving nothing for spontaneous discovery. What's the best analogy? Texting chemistry is like the trailer for a movie. It can be perfectly edited and promise the world, but it's no guarantee the full-length feature will be any good. Part 3, System Crash Dynamics. Now we get to the glitches that represent fundamental breakdowns in a relationship's core processing. These are the bugs that often lead to a total system crash. Glitch number 7, the anxious avoidant crash. This is one of the most common and most volatile pairings in modern dating. You have one partner with an anxious attachment style who craves closeness and fears abandonment, and you have another with an avoidant attachment style who fears being smothered and craves independence. When they get together, you get the anxious avoidant crash. It creates a painful, self-perpetuating cycle. The anxious person feels distance, so they pursue connection, more texts, more calls, more "do you still love me?" This makes the avoidant person feel suffocated, so they withdraw to create space. That withdrawal triggers the anxious person's deepest fear of abandonment, so they pursue even harder. And around we go. One person on Reddit perfectly captured this tragic dynamic. They realized their avoidant partner would only show affection when they themselves became so emotionally distressed that they went completely numb and withdrawn. The moment they went back to seeking connection, the partner became cold again. Now you'd think these two types would avoid each other, right? Here's the truly counterintuitive part. They are often drawn to each other because of their conflicting styles, not in spite of them. The avoidance distance confirms the anxious person's deep-seated belief that love is precarious and must be earned, and the anxious person's pursuit confirms the avoidance belief that relationships are suffocating. They don't choose each other to be happy, they choose each other because it feels familiar. It's like a thermostat war. The anxious partner feels cold and keeps cranking up the heat. The avoidant partner feels smothered and keeps cracking open a window, and both are left perpetually uncomfortable. Glitch number 8, conflict avoidance. Every couple fights, right? Wrong. Some couples are so terrified of disagreement that they'd rather let resentment build into a silent, toxic monster than have one difficult conversation. This is the slow-acting poison of glitch number 8, conflict avoidance. This is the pattern of systematically avoiding disagreements, often by saying, "it's fine when it's not," or just emotionally withdrawing. It's often learned in childhoods where expressing an opinion led to punishment or the silent treatment. Relationship expert Dr. John Gottman identifies the ultimate form of this, stonewalling, as one of the single biggest predictors of divorce. One self-described, conflict-avoidant nice guy admitted he harbors years of resentment toward his girlfriend because he's always the one making sure she's happy without ever expressing his own needs. Conflict avoiders think they're being noble peacekeepers, but the surprising truth is that they are actively destroying trust. When you avoid conflict, you're essentially lying about your thoughts and feelings. Your partner, consciously or not, picks up on this dishonesty. They learn they can't trust your words. A loud, messy, but truthful argument can actually be healthier for a relationship's long-term trust than a quiet, peaceful, but fundamentally dishonest avoidance. The best analogy? Conflict avoidance is like emotional constipation. You keep holding everything in because it feels uncomfortable to let it out, but eventually the internal buildup becomes toxic and leads to a major blockage in the relationship. Part 4, the final glitches. We've covered how relationships start and how they break down. Now let's talk about the end and the glitches that prevent a clean exit and corrupt the next start. Glitch number 9, the game over but let's keep playing bug. The relationship is over. You broke up, but you're still hooking up. You're still texting every day. You're in a confusing limbo where you're not together, but you're not apart. You've been hit by the game over, but let's keep playing bug. This on-again, off-again cycle is called relationship churning, and it's incredibly common. Up to 60% of young adults have experienced it. It's driven by a fear of loneliness and the comfort of familiarity, but research shows it's linked to higher rates of anxiety and depression.